Hey everyone, welcome to The Explainer. Today we're diving into the absolute truth about Wegovy. We're going to completely cut through all that Hollywood hype, the trending hashtags, and the sensational headlines to get down to the actual complex medical reality beneath it all.
Because look, it's the question literally everyone is asking right now. What if a single weekly injection could actually trick your brain into dropping up to 15% of your body weight? It sounds like complete sci-fi, right? It's a huge, compelling narrative that's captivated pretty much everyone. But we really need to ground ourselves in the hard medical facts.
To put this into perspective, we are staring down a global obesity crisis that is just staggering in scale. In the UK, the NHS says nearly 1 in 4 adults is struggling with this. Over in the US, CDC data puts that number at over 40%. 40%! For decades, the old calories in, calories out approach has just completely failed so many people. And that context is exactly why Semaglutide, which is the active ingredient in Wegovy, is being hailed as such a massive medical revolution.
Part 1. The science. Tricking the brain. Let's actually demystify how this stuff works on a biological level once it gets inside your body.
Okay, so every single time you eat a meal, your gut naturally releases a hormone called GLP-1, and it does 3 pretty incredible things. First, it pings the hypothalamus in your brain, basically saying, hey, we're full, we're good. Second, it physically slows down your digestion, what's called gastric emptying, meaning food actually sits in your stomach for much longer. And third, it regulates your insulin levels, which totally crushes those intense sugar and carb cravings.
But here's where the science gets super fascinating. Your body's natural GLP-1 hormone, it only sticks around for a few minutes after you eat before it breaks down. Wegovy is a synthetic version with a structural twist. It's meticulously engineered to resist being broken down by your body. So instead of lasting a few minutes, one single injection lasts for an entire week. It acts like this constant, powerful megaphone telling your brain that you just aren't hungry.
Which brings us to a phenomenon the medical community calls food noise. You know those constant, intrusive background thoughts and cravings about what you're going to eat next that a lot of people experience all day long? Because Wegovy leaves that fullness signal switched on all week, it completely silences those intrusive thoughts. For a lot of folks, it offers this profound psychological relief.
Part 2. Strict rules and hidden dangers. It's time for a bit of a harsh reality check on the actual physical side of things and how this drug is gate-kept.
So this medication is heavily gate-kept, though it really depends on where you live. For example, the UK's NHS requires a BMI of 35 or higher and strictly caps usage at a 2-year maximum. Contrast that with the US FDA, they allow access starting at a BMI of 30, with literally no limit on how long you can take it. But the bottom line here is that this is a serious medical intervention, not some quick cosmetic fix.
And there's a very crucial reason for that strict medical supervision. 44%. That is a massive number, and it reveals the darker side of intentionally slowing down your digestion. Clinical trials show that up to 44% of users experience significant, debilitating nausea in their first few months on the drug.
People often call this the injection penalty. Since your digestive system is basically running at a fraction of its normal speed, users can suffer some severe digestive distress. We're talking vomiting, diarrhea, and intense constipation. For a lot of patients, these aren't just minor side effects. They are exhausting, daily struggles that aggressively flare up every single time they bump up their dosage.
Then you have the aesthetic toll. You've probably heard of Wegovy Face. See, when you rapidly drop 15 to 20% of your body mass, your body doesn't discriminate where it burns that fat from.
The fat pads in your face shrink super fast. Your skin loses elasticity, and it starts to severely sag. It can make you look noticeably, visibly older. It's gotten to the point where plastic surgeons are seeing a huge surge in patients, especially folks over 40, coming in for procedures just to fix this rapid structural damage.
But looking past the mirror, there are some terrifying hidden dangers happening inside the body that can literally land you in the hospital. Rapid weight loss drastically spikes cholesterol in your bile, which can cause severe gallbladder issues, like gallstones. There's also an elevated risk of pancreatitis. But maybe the most concerning thing of all, severe muscle mass loss. You aren't just losing fat, you are burning away crucial muscle. That creates a skinny fat physique and triggers a long-term metabolic slowdown that wreaks absolute havoc on your body's natural engine.
Part 3, the Rebound Effect, stopping Semaglutide, which builds toward a massive, looming question. What exactly happens when a user decides they've had enough?
While the reality of the off-ramp is pretty brutal, that appetite suppression, it wears off incredibly quickly. And that food noise we talked about earlier returns with an absolute vengeance. Plus, remember that severe muscle loss we just looked at? Because the patient now has a significantly slower metabolism, they are actually highly prone to gaining weight back even faster than they originally put it on. The clinical data here is honestly staggering. Within just 1 year of stopping the medication, the average user regains about 2/3 of the weight they lost. Only 34% managed to actually maintain their new weight. What this data conclusively proves is that Wegovy is not a temporary quick fix. It functions as a chronic medication that requires a long-term commitment.
A really good way to think about it is this. Medication can provide the training wheels, but it cannot replace the bike. If you're relying entirely on an injection, you're merely masking your symptoms. If you don't make foundational lifestyle changes, the results will totally collapse the second you take those training wheels off.
Part 4. The permanent solution, lifestyle changes. If you want true long-term health, you have to make some mandatory changes.
And this really boils down to 3 non-negotiable lifestyle pillars. First, resistance training, 3 to 4 times a week. That is absolutely crucial to protect and rebuild the vital muscle mass you lose on the drug. Second, you must prioritize protein at literally every single meal to stay full and shield those muscles while shedding fat. And finally, you have to master the psychology of eating. You need to use the temporary quiet of that suppressed food noise to actively break your old habits and relearn what your body's natural hunger and satiety cues actually feel like.
Looking ahead, the science of weight management is evolving incredibly fast. We're already moving from weekly injections to daily oral pills and even multi-agonist medications designed to target multiple hormones at once for a stronger effect. But no matter how advanced the meds get, sustainable, long-term health is the ultimate goal. It's not just about chasing a smaller number on the scale.
Which leaves us with one final thought. Look, Wegovy is undeniably a massive medical breakthrough, but it is not magic. It requires strict medical supervision, so please never go the DIY route, and it requires immense lifestyle discipline. So having seen the incredible science, the severe hidden risks, and the reality of the rebound effect, would you personally consider it, or do you prefer the natural route? Definitely something to think about. Thanks for tuning into this explainer, and we'll catch you next time.